Hello, welcome inside Fever Insider Live. First post-game show. Brian Haenchen, Chloe Peterson here with you talking about Indiana Fever's 92-70 win over the Chicago Sky. Plenty to get to here. Obviously, the injury situation. Since last we spoke, the Fever got some bad news on both Sidney Colson and Ari McDonald, who are out for the year. Colson with the torn ACL, McDonald with the broken foot. First game back tonight, they come out, they beat the snot out of the Sky. Big performance from Kelsey Mitchell. Lexi Hull, a massive bounce-back performance from her with the season high 17 points, 4 of 6 from 3. Chloe, I'll let you decide where we take this thing first. There's plenty to get to.
Yeah, I guess we can start out with the injuries they announced on Friday. I mean, obviously, ACL was the fear for Sidney Colson when she went down on Thursday night. I mean, to me, it looked like a textbook ACL tear with her knee bending inward and everything like that, not being able to put any weight on it. But it's obviously unfortunate for the Fever that that obviously happened. And then McDonald's injury, I think I was surprised by it being something that was a season ender because, I didn't even know at first when she hurt her foot or broke a bone in her foot. And then she kind of limped off the floor in Phoenix, limped back to the locker room. And then obviously after some tests, her foot is broken. And that's very unfortunate for the Fever as she was their starter with Caitlin out. And now, as of right now, the Fever do not have any healthy point guards in their lineup. Obviously, the Fever couldn't sign anyone to a hardship contract for this game because injured players have to miss a game before they become eligible for the hardship contract. So the Fever are planning to sign someone for Tuesday's game and beyond, obviously for the rest of the season or until Caitlin comes back. There are 2 different types of hardship contracts, so the Fever could conceivably get someone for the rest of the season, regardless of whenever Caitlin Clark comes back. But that's a lot of complicated hardship stuff that is complicated.
We can deal with that on Tuesday. I think Chloe explained it to me during the game. It is still very confusing, folks. Just don't worry about the technicalities. Just wait and worry about Chloe's reporting. Just good Lord. But I mean, that was kind of expected. We were talking about it during the game. Like, if you're going to have to deal with this injuries and everything that the Fever are going through, the schedule sets up in a way that it's survivable.
Yeah.
And to start this stretch when you only have 9 healthy players with Chicago,
yeah,
I mean, that's about as good as you can get in terms of what this team is dealing with.
Yeah, obviously this was Indiana's 4th straight win over Chicago, or 4th straight this season. I don't know how many it is in a row dating back to last season, but they have an easier stretch right now, which is lucky for them. They obviously beat Chicago by 22 tonight, and then they play Dallas, which they've already beaten 3 times this season. And then they play Washington, which is not as easy of a game, but then
Fun with Minnesota last night, Washington did.
That's true. And then after that is Connecticut. So you have, 3 teams who are out of the playoff picture as of right now and coming up in the next week, which will be good for the Fever to kind of get reintegrated, find that player that they need and integrate them in as much as they can. And then after that, they have 4 days off before they have to play Minnesota in a back-to-back.
Let's talk about Lexi Hull. We were going to play some video, but the video got messed up. So we'll have a clip from Kelsey Mitchell here in a second. But Lexi Hull, 17 points, 4 of 6 from 3, 5 of 9 overall. This on the heels of what was a really, really brutal stretch for her. I mean, kind of most of the season, but in particular here, right? 2 for her last 25 from 3. She had not scored in double figures in 17 consecutive games entering Saturday, coming off that performance there in Phoenix where she goes 1 for 11 from the field, 0 for 8 from 3, 2 points total, which kind of felt like bottoming out if we're being blunt and honest. And Kelsey Mitchell afterwards said they had an emotional moment together. They talked about it and just talking her up. And that's a thing that's been a theme with this group throughout the years, just the togetherness and just how they're all so tightly knit and how they all love on each other. And this is kind of a microcosm of both this team's resiliency and that love and support of one another and just kind of the constant belief and it finally going to come through. And for Lexi Hull, I mean, it really did come through in a big way.
Yeah, this was a needed bounce back both for Lexi Hull, who, as you mentioned, hadn't scored in double figures in 17 games, which I think was the June 24th game against Seattle. And, it was something she needed really desperately, and the Fever needed, obviously, with only 9 available players, and a lot of their players tonight playing out of position. Like, obviously, Kelsey and Sophie had to go in, play point guard, switch off that role, and it was an uncomfortable playing out of position. And then they had a lot of like big lineups where they didn't have any point guards to put on the floor, so it was the shortest person was Sophie Cunningham at 6'1", 6'2". So a lot of people played out of position tonight, and I think it was uncomfortable for a lot of the players. But Lexi really stepped up to kind of help lead them tonight.
Just really impressed. And it was a fun. This is what my story tonight will kind of focus on, is just that last shot of the game where Hull gets it. She crossover between the legs, gets shakes loose of Haley Van Lith, steps behind the arc, hits it, turns around, tongue hanging out, 3-pointer down. And I mean, I think everybody, as the players are flooding the court, went directly to Lexi Hull, because it's like they knew it was almost like the stress valve was released, and she finally has this moment. So really cool for her. Some great comments from everybody afterwards. And yeah, just shout out Young Jeezy too. When we asked Kelsey Mitchell about if she could see this, Kelsey Mitchell brought up both the moment in Phoenix and also the song All There by Young Jeezy, and just how she says everything's there. It's just, just got to keep believing and it's going to come. And then, like we said, it did come. I'll let you take the next takeaway from that game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey Mitchell, I think, had a great game as, an emergency point guard. She had, a team high, game high, 26 points, and then a season high for her, 8 assists. And she talked about post-game, she hadn't played, point guard since college. In, I think, 2018 would have been the last time she played point guard. So this was really something that was out of her element. But she really embraced it, stepped into it, and she's obviously one of those players that does what she needs to do for this team. Like, obviously, she's not comfortable playing point guard most of the time, but it's something she embraced because she knew they needed her to do it. And it's not something they're going to ask her to do for the rest of the season, obviously, but when they needed her to step up, she did.
Everybody, and I think you mentioned just the willingness of everybody to play those different roles. Mm-hmm. And Lexi, you mentioned that too, just like to give up the scoring opportunities and give up different parts of your own game for the betterment of the team is such a big part of it. And spoke with Kelsey Mitchell before the game, had a brief conversation before the game just about this. And the word that I used was bounce back. And I meant that sort of mentally and emotionally, because it's devastating to see somebody blow out their ACL and to see another teammate break her foot. I mean, that's a lot. And she kind of pushed back on the idea of calling it a bounce back and whatever. But then she went into this explanation of she said, quote, "Shit happens. It's basketball. It's part of life. It sucks for our group, but you can't look at it as a loss. You can't look at it as a bounce back. You have to look at it as what it is." And I think that just kind of speaks to this team's mentality and to her mentality too. A veteran player saying that, just like she said, shit happens, and you got to move on. And that'll move me to my next talking point, and just the resiliency of this group. And then here's what Kelsey Mitchell said post game. I thought this was pretty impactful.
Team I've ever been a part of, and I say that wholeheartedly. We've had a lot of mishap happen throughout the course of the season. I think throughout the course of it all, we've stayed resilient, and you guys get to see us at our best when we stay together and be resilient. So shout out to my girls tonight, because I think it took everybody. Everyone played a piece, played a role, and I think that's how we got the dub.
That video courtesy of the Indiana Fever YouTube page. Full press conference is up on IndyStar.com as well. I love this quote from Stephanie White too. She said, quote, "I look at them like I look at my kids. You sit back and smile. You see how they come together and how they bounce back. I'm proud of them because it's not easy. This job isn't easy. They go through a lot, but when you love who you come to work with, that makes it worth it."
Yeah, I think obviously the Fever have been through a lot this season. Obviously, there was that whole DB situation at the beginning of the season, Caitlin Clark's injuries, and then you have these 2 devastating season-ending injuries, and when they're making that playoff push too. So I think everything that's happened to them this season has helped them come together and be like that family that Steph mentioned, and it's just helped them be that resilient team and just have them act like more of a family maybe than past seasons or past teams they've been on. I know Sophie mentioned after the Phoenix game that she loved her time in Phoenix, but she's much happier here in Indiana. So I think that just also speaks to how just changing environments for a lot of these players. Obviously they only brought back 5 players from last season's team. And I think all of them just coming together. Steph mentioned post-game or pre-game, I can't remember.
One of the games.
That sometime when she talked today that, they were very intentional with who they brought in and bringing like that culture piece in. And I think that's really worked out for them, especially with the adversity they've had this season.
She kind of slipped that in there, and it probably got lost on a night like tonight. There were a ton of really good quotes, but that was a really good observation, a really interesting observation by her, and just the focus on who they brought into the room. And looking back, and maybe it's prisoner of the moment thinking, but I kind of remember thinking that in the moment on media day when we're standing there, and with the way that it works, they just parade players through, and you just, it's kind of assembly line, but that was kind of a theme. In addition to getting that veteran presence in there, we just how close they were and how quickly they were focused on building that chemistry. And that was a talking point too at the Commissioner's Cup Championship in Minneapolis as well, was just like kind of getting everybody together and just like the team chemistry, and some of those long trips help. And two, I mean, it sucks and it's shitty when teams have to go through this, but trauma in its own way bonds people together bonding. Too. Yeah. Trauma bonding is real.
I don't have any other thoughts then.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else you want to talk about or touch on from the game, Chloe?
The
defense was good.
Yeah.
Defense was good.
Yeah, they played zone for the first time. Stephanie White was asked if that kind of zone defense was something that they had worked on before or they just dropped in today, and it was something they just dropped in literally at their walkthrough today. So I guess props to the Fever for having a decent defense when it was a defense they learned about 4 hours before the game. But yeah, props to them. Defense was good, and I don't have any other thoughts.
That was a great thought, though. That was a really good thought. Do you want to fill some time while I try and see if there's any updates on Grace Berger?
I mean, Grace Berger is on a contract with Dallas until Tuesday. So for the person asking in the chat about Grace Berger, she is under contract with Dallas until Tuesday. So the Fever could technically sign her if they wanted to, but they would have to wait until Tuesday to sign her, and then also hope that Dallas doesn't want to sign her to a rest of season contract.
Unfortunately for Hoosier fans who are also Fever fans, it would seem unlikely, just logistically speaking.
Yeah, because the Fever are eligible for a hardship player as of right now, because they became eligible after this game, because they needed to play a game where they had only 9 available players. So now they're eligible for that emergency hardship contract. So I don't see them waiting until Tuesday and then to sign Grace Berger when they could sign someone, tomorrow, and then have that player come in for a full practice on Monday when they have a practice. So unless they're willing to wait specifically for Grace Berger, I kind of just see it as them signing somebody tomorrow so they can get here as soon as possible.
Was it Ariel Powers who's off the board now, or who signed?
Jalen Sherrod signed with the Minnesota Lynx as of yesterday, I believe. So she's also off the board. She would have been a good candidate, I think. She has that championship experience as a rookie, winning a championship with New York last year.
A joy to have around, according to her head coach.
Yeah.
Which are words that are used to describe me as well. We won't say what they say about Chloe. How do you handle this if you're the Fever? Just real quickly as we kind of bring things home here. I mean, do you look at a piece that could potentially have a long-term benefit like a Serena Sundell, or do you go for the more veteran presence? Where are you at? They're in such a unique spot.
I think of it as something, they want to have someone that'll fit, whether it's, I don't think necessarily a veteran presence versus, someone like a rookie or a player that hasn't been in the league as much. It's more someone who will fit, that point guard position and what they need to do, because they could have them for the rest of the season either way. And they still have that veteran presence in Sid Colson. She's obviously not going to be playing for the rest of the year, but she'll still be around the team. I imagine she was here tonight, and they'll still have it with, Kelsey Mitchell, obviously an 8-year vet, and Sophie Cunningham, Bree Turner have been in the league for a long time too. So I think they're probably just looking for someone who can come in and be amenable and just get in to the playbook as soon as possible.
I have pregame. Lexi Hull talked about just the impact and just how they're kind of rallying around both McDonald and Colson. And then also McDonald, I don't know if you saw it, we talked about a little bit pregame, but the fact that McDonald played on with the broken foot, I mean, that's pretty badass, honestly. Hull said she didn't even realize that she was hurt and then went in the locker room and saw she was in a boot. So that just speaks to that kid's toughness and in character. Closing thoughts from you, Chloe, as we get out of here at 12:12 with 42 people in the stream. That is insane. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, I don't have too many thoughts. I mean, obviously the Fever can sign somebody, so I guess be on the lookout for that. I'd imagine they'd sign someone either tomorrow or Monday, so she would be able to be here in time for their practice on Monday. They're off tomorrow, a much-needed rest day, I would say, for them after playing every other day since they played Phoenix the first time on July 30th. They've played every other day since then.
Jeez
with a
Louise.
4-game road trip in the middle of that. So much needed rest day for them. And the Fever obviously planning to sign someone either tomorrow or Monday.
It's not what you want in terms of scheduling. How about this too for the New York Liberty? They have 36 hours to fly from Dallas to New York City and get to the arena for the first Barclays hosted rematch of the 2024 finals tomorrow afternoon, which is just peak asinine, but also peak WNBA under the current CBA.
Yeah, I mean, the Fever got back to Indianapolis, I believe it was 5:30 a.m. when they landed on Friday morning yesterday. So I'm sure none of them were feeling that great yesterday. And then they come in today, play a game, still win by 22, which is hats off to them. And I guess to the person who said they're going to say, are they going to get surgeries soon? I know usually with ACL surgeries, they like to let the swelling go down. So it'll probably be a couple weeks before Sydney Colson gets her surgery. I think for Courtney Vandersloot, when she tore her ACL back in June, she waited 2 or 3 weeks before she officially got surgery. And then with Aari McDonald, I'm not sure if it requires surgery, but I guess I can check in on that.
Yeah, the ACLs, it seems like kind of case by case.
Yeah.
Chloe and I will be back on Tuesday. I think we're going to do a pregame show similar to what we did last week. So we'll come on sometime probably a little bit earlier in the day, sometime in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So bring your headphones to work and you can listen in, get involved with the chat. We'll be more active, interactive too with the viewers. Obviously, we both just finished writing and are ready to go home. So be sure to tune in on Tuesday. We'll both have information on that and when that show will be. So be sure to subscribe to the Indianapolis Star YouTube page. Hit the bell for notification, drop a like, do all the stuff that helps us do whatever. You guys are amazing for being here. 44 people at 12:15 at night is impressive. For Chloe, I'm Hank. We thank you all so much for watching. We will talk to you in a couple of days.